Call of Duty, Equestrian Warfare, My Little Pony fanfic by Chrome Regios. Chapter 2: A Wing and a Prayer. With a curt goodbye, Vásquez leaves the cave to look for food, get some air, and process everything that is happening, heading alone into the forest twilight while talking to himself along the way. Nuclear weapons, helicopter crash, talking ponies, giant multi-headed snakes. What's next? Mutters the Marine officer, who feels like anything but in command, his grip on reality barely holding together as he keeps thinking about the previous day and everything the talking mare had told them earlier. Man, I have to stop drinking strong coffee in the middle of the night. It makes me see some really weird stuff, he tells himself, still half thinking and hoping that it is all a dream and that he is about to wake up back at base, getting ready for the day's action. I'd rather face a rebel nuclear bomb than this, he adds mentally, because at least a nuclear bomb is something known. This strange new world he finds himself in most definitely is not. As the incredible lack of logic in the situation continues weighing on him, Vásquez tries to shake off the feeling of madness slowly creeping into his mind. As he walks through the forest, he stumbles upon what appears to be a Marine-issued backpack. Thinking someone simply left it there, he approaches and examines it in the glow of his flashlight. Reading it, he discovers that it belongs to someone he knows, Lieutenant Michael Hudson, a Marine from the 6th Force Recon Regiment. The last time he had seen his fellow officer, Hudson had been heading into the capital leading a separate raid before they were separated. But why is it here? Is he nearby? He asks himself, frowning, still hoping to find another familiar face. As he turns the corner, he almost runs straight into a statue of a person. And strangely enough, its facial features seem familiar. What the hell is a statue doing here? He asks no one in particular. He studies it closely under the dim red light of his bayonet-mounted flashlight, which is only of limited use without his night vision equipment, though he is not willing to risk using the high-intensity beam. The statue is a perfect sculpture of a reconnaissance Marine. It even has a stone rifle and equipment carved into its form. Every detail is perfect, down to the dog tags hanging around its neck, where Vásquez reads the name engraved on the stone tag. Lieutenant Hudson, Michael. What the hell? He staggers backward and almost falls to the ground from the shock, only then remembering Fluttershy's warning about a Medusa-like creature that could turn its victims to stone just by looking at them. Wait, she really meant it? At that moment, he goes pale, feeling all the blood drain from his face as he thinks about what such a creature could do to him, and what it apparently has already done. Hearing a sudden slithering sound behind him, the hairs on the back of his neck stand on end. He slowly turns around and finds a snake-like creature with the head of a chicken, watching him with its hypnotic red eyes. That must be the cockatrice, he thinks, swallowing hard and quickly averting his gaze, hoping against all hope that the creature needs eye contact in order to petrify him. Vásquez backs away slowly, making no sudden movements, his pistol feeling heavy as lead in his hand. Just as he is about to raise it, he suddenly feels stiff and falls backward, quickly realizing the cause. His legs are beginning to turn to stone. This is not good at all. He tries to raise the gun, only to discover that he can no longer pull the trigger because his hand is now rock. He tries to crawl away, but barely manages to move a couple of meters before he can no longer move at all, the petrification effect now creeping up his sides and nearing his chest. Realizing that he has only seconds left, the Marine lieutenant takes the only option remaining to him. He draws his combat knife with the hand he can still move and waits for the snake to get close enough. Then, with one desperate motion, one he had last used against a rebel soldier who had stumbled onto his hiding place, he cuts off its head in a single slash. As the chicken-headed snake falls dead to the ground, The red glow fades from its eyes and Vásquez's body slowly returns to normal, leaving him shaking badly and finally forced to accept that this world he finds himself in is far too real. With that, he stands up and sees that Michael is not returning to normal. This isn't good. He thinks, feeling panic beginning to climb back through him. Killing the creature returned him to his normal state, so why had Hudson not come back? Maybe it isn't reversible once you are completely turned to stone, he reasons. After waiting long enough to be sure, he understands that there is nothing more he can do, so he leaves him there, taking the discarded and non-petrified backpack as he heads back toward the cave. Trying to distract himself from his fears and frantic thoughts, Vásquez thinks about his past, when he was first assigned to the 4th Marine Infantry Division as a second lieutenant fresh out of officer candidate school in Quantico. It was in Iraq, when they sent us to the 4th Division. Man, those were the days. I would not want to be those poor bastards right now. They have probably had enough of crawling through mud, training in the rain, running under the damned blazing sun. Hell, maybe Dirk is still there, for all I know, he tells himself as he jogs down the path toward the cave, straining his eyes to spot any other possible threat in the red beam of his flashlight, which barely cuts through the almost complete darkness of the forest. Basically, it was hell. Dirk was our commanding officer at the camp, and nobody messed with him. He was the toughest and most badass Marine in our bunker, always with things like do this and do that, man. If you had more guts and less pride than the other guy, you might at least make it out of the camp alive, or you could end up getting shot for disobeying a direct order from a superior. He shakes his head at the memory. I know shooting a soldier is unfair, especially when the order itself is too. But hey, like he always said, this is not kindergarten, kid. We're at war, and we don't need weak-minded people in our corps. That was his motto, and as harsh as he was, there was no question that he got results. He keeps walking as he remembers his old assignments under Dirk, who in many ways became his mentor. When he gives assignments, he takes them very seriously. One false move and you go straight to the box. The same goes for time. If he wants something by a certain hour, he really means it and does not listen to your excuses. Some say he is a slave driver. But I don't know, to me he is more like an overseer. As he makes his way back, something else reaches his ears, a muffled rustle of movement in the tall grass farther down the trail. He quickly turns off his flashlight and investigates the noise, pistol drawn and ready to fire, taking no chances after his close encounter with the cockatrice. He follows the source of the sound to a small clearing in the forest, and hides behind the tree line just outside its edge, wishing his night vision goggles worked as he scans the darkened surroundings for anyone who might be there. Just then, he notices what appears to be a large, upright, partially clothed dog emerging from a hidden tunnel, walking on its hind legs. Wearing a jeweled collar and with abnormally large eyes and paws, it stops and waits, barking something toward the hole behind it. As if an answer, another canine-like creature comes out, followed by a third. There are 3 dogs in total, and all of them are as big as he is or bigger. Worse, they have all started sniffing the air, as if they can catch his scent, talking back and forth in their own language and then pointing generally in the direction of his location. Shit, now what? Vásquez aims his pistol and prepares to fire. But before he can open fire on them, he remembers that the talking mare said other intelligent races lived in her world, not just ponies, and that he has no right to shoot them when he does not know whether they are truly a threat. Taking a risk, since Fluttershy turned out to be friendly, Vásquez puts his pistol on safety and decides it is best to show himself. Hey there, dogs. Vásquez waves and smiles at the dog-like beings as he gets closer to them. I'm a friend. Startled by his alien appearance, the dogs do not answer immediately until one of them, the leader, snarls and growls at Vásquez, barking in order that makes the others immediately move to either side as if to flank him, each pulling out what appears to be some kind of snare or sling weapon. Instantly reclassifying the group from potentially friendly to hostile, the Marine lieutenant raises his pistol again and takes a step back. "Hey! Back off," he warns them, but not recognizing his weapon, the two flanking dogs charge at Vásquez, leaving him no choice but to defend himself. He fires 3 shots at the one on the left, and 1 bullet strikes its head, killing it on the spot, before swinging the pistol to the right and putting half a dozen more rounds into the one on that side, dropping it just before it reaches the Marine lieutenant. The third one does not stay idle, it lets out an enraged howl and charges the Marine. It is the largest of the group, and Vásquez instantly realizes it will not go down easily and that he needs a headshot to finish the job. Aligning his sights, and knowing he has at least 6 rounds left in the 15-round magazine of his standard Marine-issued Beretta M9A1 9mm, he pulls the trigger and fires. Click. The pistol makes the most terrifying sound a Marine can hear. The weapon has jammed. Sensing an opportunity, the dog charges Vásquez, who struggles frantically to clear the misfired round, but the dog is too fast and grabs him, fighting with him over the strange weapon. Vásquez struggles to break free from the dog's incredibly strong grip, its teeth bared as it tries to get at his throat while its claws begin digging into his flesh. But the veteran Marine has fought hand-to-hand with Russian rebels and Iraqi insurgents, and he refuses to go down without a fight. He immediately jabs a finger into the dog's huge eye, making it yelp in pain and loosen its grip just enough for the lieutenant to break free. Now furious, the dog becomes truly enraged and lets out a frustrated snarl, charging the Marine once more. With his pistol useless, Vásquez pulls out the hunting knife Jackson gave him earlier and prepares to defend himself. But the dog is too fast and determined, slamming hard into Vásquez and knocking the blade from his hand. As both of them lose their balance during the struggle, they roll downhill toward a nearby edge of uncertain height, almost invisible in the deepening darkness but made clear by the bank of fog gathering there. Recognizing the danger, the Marine lieutenant tries to kick the dog away just before they go over the edge, but the bipedal canine is too heavy for him and clings to his uniform with its claws to save itself, trying to climb back up over him. Clinging to a protruding branch for dear life, the Marine punches the dog in the face repeatedly with his free hand, knocking out a couple of teeth, but otherwise only enraging his attacker even more. Realizing that the strange creature has the advantage in strength, Vásquez understands that he has no option left but to let them fall and hope for the best, that the ravine is not too deep, that he can make the dog take the impact, and that he can reach his backup knife. Vásquez says a silent prayer and lets out a Marine battle cry before letting go, allowing himself to fall down the ravine. Having already experienced one life-saving miracle that day, he can only pray that he will still be granted a second. Extra Chapter, Ground Zero. Sergeant. Corporal Kraft calls out to his superior. Report. Sergeant Williams replies to his subordinate, who is running toward him to give information. The lower-ranking NCO does not bring good news. Sir, we have checked and double-checked the blast perimeter looking for the bodies of the missing team, but there is nothing there. We cannot find any trace of Lieutenant Vásquez or Sergeant Paul Jackson, sir. Williams can only groan and shake his head. The veteran NCO is having a very bad day. Not only has a large part of the rebel force somehow disappeared without a trace after the explosion, but some of his own men have vanished as well. Even their tanks and Humvees have somehow apparently been completely erased from existence, not only at Ground Zero, but also while outside the blast's immediately lethal radius. Damn it, Corporal, this makes no sense. I mean, how could more than 1,000 Marines and rebels disappear without a trace along with their vehicles? Even if they were killed by the blast, we should at least find the wreckage and the bodies. But there is nothing. Nothing. Williams slams his fist down, on the verge of losing his mind during the recovery mission the general has assigned to him. He had thought it would be a fairly simple task. His orders were simply, collect the bodies, separate them, identify them, and get out. Then decontaminate yourselves and your team. But he was wrong, and his superiors were becoming even more exasperated than he was with every nonsensical report he gave them. After another hour of searching the entire area, he finally stumbles upon something, the wreckage of a CH-46C night transport. He checks the identity of the fallen helicopter through his uplink to baseplate, reviews its last set of orders, and discovers that it was assigned to the missing Lieutenant Vásquez of the United States Marine Corps 1st Force Recon, who had crashed after the nuclear attack. Finally, something. He exhales sharply, but his relief does not last long. But if this is their transport, then where are their bodies? Williams stands in the same place where Jackson supposedly died as he gazes up at the sky, wondering what became of his friend. He still remembers the frantic radio transmission from both the Nest team and baseplate on that tragic day. Knowing what was about to happen, and that there was nothing he could do to save them. 2 days earlier. Nest, Nuclear Emergency Support Team. Attempt to disarm the nuclear device. Baseplate, this is Kilo 1 of the Nest team. We confirm that we have a nuclear threat in the capital. I repeat, we have a confirmed nuclear threat in the capital. We advise that the remaining Marines in the field disengage and retreat north while we disarm the bomb, over. Sergeant Utah alerts the entire base about the nuclear bomb they have just discovered, assembled, and placed there by Vladimir Makarov's rebel fanatics, likely with the intention of covering their tracks and inflicting as many casualties as possible on the attacking Marines. The baseplate radio operator swallows hard, but to his credit keeps his voice steady. Roger that, Kilo 1, will give our boys an immediate warning, out. Utah hangs up and turns his attention back to the improvised bomb in front of him. He instructs Private First Class Johnson on how to disarm the bomb while he searches for the correct wire to cut, or tries to. Halfway through the process, they have the casing open and the internal components exposed, reaching an inner circuit that consists of 3 wire segments, each with its own function and color, one red, one white, and one green. He knows that one of the wires triggers the detonation, while another starts the nuclear fission reaction. And the third would simply move them along to the next link in the electronic chain that could eventually lead to disarmament. With his heart racing, Johnson finds it very difficult to wait for an order on how to proceed, while Utah keeps changing his mind and receiving contradictory data from his computer about which one is the third wire, his readings on the bomb confused except for one irrefutable fact. The bomb is counting down 5 minutes to detonation. He shakes his head in frustration, grateful at least that they still have a few minutes left. Command, this is Sergeant Utah reporting. We need more time to disarm this thing. Have you told all friendlies to retreat to a minimum safe distance until we give the all-clear? Utah radios baseplate while continuing to monitor the situation, receives an affirmative answer, and then turns his attention back to the computer screen and the life or death matter in front of him. I've got it. Johnson. You need to cut the red Y. Before he can finish the sentence, the bomb is triggered remotely by a watching rebel following his leader's orders, and it explodes, instantly vaporizing Johnson and Utah in a blinding flash of light. The explosion killed the entire Nest team, not to mention countless Marines, rebels, and civilians. Williams was on the top floor of a 15-story building, 10 miles from the blast. With his skin scorched and his left eye momentarily blinded by the flash, all the sergeant could do was helplessly listen to the panicked calls from the rescue helicopters caught in the blast and hurled down toward the earth, presumably killing everyone inside. The shockwave reached their outpost only a few seconds later and broke more than a few windows, but that was minor damage compared to the carnage closer in, with the death toll among their fellow soldiers in the field. Early estimates spoke of more than 20,000 dead, and that number was fully expected to rise. Or it would, if Williams could find the mysteriously vanished vehicles and bodies. His failure to do so was exasperating, if not outright infuriating. Nevertheless, he has his orders and does his best to carry them out, searching for his lost friends and comrades. Where are they? He asks himself again and again in frustration. It is almost as if they had vanished right off the face of the earth.